never see God or know God. At the lowest level, it is the enemy of spirituality. And he explained to me that in the Sanskrit we call it moha. You see, he said moha means attachment. And he told me how the great king Dasharatha, died of putra moha, or fascination for his son. When the son left, this man collapsed. So moha of any sort, you see, is taboo, whether it is for son, for wife, for job, for this world, even for your own life. That was one of the lessons that Babuji Maharaj gave me very early in life. We should desire neither life nor death. When somebody was there sitting near to us, he said, what should we desire? He said, I am telling you, we should desire nothing. Because if there is a guide to guide you on the spiritual path, he knows what you should get, what is good for you. Where is the question of you desiring anything? So we have to be like he later explained, the living dead, you see. Or as he said, like the dead in the hands of the dresser, like a body prepared for burial. It offers neither resistance nor cooperation. It is, and we have to work with it. So these are many of the lessons, which were there in those years, what I would call preliminary lessons. In a way, they were also elementary lessons in spirituality. How not to love wrongly, how it is almost impossible to love correctly, how even the word love is misused by the whole of humanity with few exceptions. Because Babuji Maharaj said, love is not for human beings, love is only for God. What is it that we must have for human beings? He said, affection. That's why you write to your dad, yours affectionately. You write to your wife, yours affectionately. Affection is reserved for human intercourse. Love for God. So one Westerner, asked a sort of teasing question, what about love between husband and wife, Babuji Maharaj? He said, I'm telling you, it is very good. Husband must love his wife. Wife must love her husband. And she probably implied about this physical thing, And he said, that is not love. That is nature's instrument for procreation. Unfortunately, it has become totally confused with love, which doesn't exist at all for the human being. So they think this is love. See? And we are falling into it repeatedly and so on and so forth. So these preliminary or very elementary lessons were all that most people have absorbed from him, even after 20 years in Sahaj Marga. Because they thought, this is it, you see. Like in one of the Upanishadic stories, a Rakshasa called Vritra and Indra, go to a guru for education about what is the truth, Satyam. So he says, the Sarira is Satya. The Rakshasa, going back, looks into a well and sees himself, with his garlands, with the jewelry, bedecked. And he says, it is good. What the Guru said is correct, And he was happy. Indra, on the other hand, sees a dead body being taken for cremation. And he says, how can this be it if it is going to be destroyed by fire? And then he went back and asked the next question, you see. From that, the Taittiriya Upanishad comes, you see. And which says, Annam Brahmeti Vejanat, Pranam Brahmeti Vejanat, that sort of thing, you see. Know the food to be Brahman, know the breath to be Brahman, know bliss to be Brahman, things of that, like that, 5 or 6 levels. So what we absorb, we must mull over, meditate over, and then further questions rise, with which you must go to the Guru. Few people did, because I may say confidently that out of 100,000 people, probably 5 or 6 related to the Guru in that way. They were able to think and then go back and say to the Guru, but Master, you said this, how can it be when this is like this? He said, you are asking a good question. Now I am telling you. See. People never did. They were very happy. Babuji did not bother. He said what the Gita says, what the Gita Acharya says, you see. He said of those who read the Gita, maybe 1 in a million will read it properly. Of those who read it properly, 1 in a million may understand. Of those who understand it, 1 in a million may put it into practice. Of those who practice it, hardly 1 in a million may make it even to the first level. This is what Lord Krishna says in the Gita, in the Falasruti part, early part, you see. He says, this is the truth. Babuji said, this is the truth, you see. If everybody who comes to me were to become a saint, India would have been a land of saints thousands of years ago, see. Because there were capable rishis, munis who were instructing. They gave us the knowledge that we are teaching today. They were unsuccessful because human beings were not ready, not willing. He said, I don't mind if they are just not ready. I can make them ready because preparation is like cooking. You get vegetables, you make them ready to be cooked, then you cook, then you eat. See? But he says, when they are unwilling, what can I do? Therefore comes this famous answer to a question, what is necessary to become an abhyasi? And later, what is necessary to be a preceptor? Willingness is all that I need, Babuji said. If you are willing, I can do with you what I wish. And my desire is only to make you perfect, like my great master, Rajagopalachari Maharaj taught me. Babuji was always speaking about Rajagopalachari Maharaj. I mean, anybody who has interacted with him knows that he was always saying, Rajagopalachari Maharaj said this, Rajagopalachari Maharaj said that. And his oft-repeated statement to abhyasis, where will you get a master like him? See? One of the photographs in my book is like that, you know, Babuji sitting on his bed in the room where I sleep now, and holding out his hands like this and saying, where will you get a master like that? And for anything that happened, he gave credit to Rajagopalachari Maharaj. It was not just, you know, a word of mouth or just a courtesy, or as people say nowadays, you know, Narayan said this, Narayan said that, referring to the great Narayan. They won't mention their names or Guru's name. That is hypocrisy. Here it was 100% from the heart. Babuji, today's sitting was wonderful. Look here, that is Lalaji's grace. Babuji, that man said you had liberated his mother. I am telling you, if one has a master like mine, anything is possible. Today you are blessed, Babuji says, and he then adds with a smile, it is all Lalaji's grace. I would like to take the risk of saying it was his magnificent obsession. Not an obsession in the sense of the trivial obsessions we have with men, materials, prosperity, things like that. But his grand passion, as they say in French. He lived by Babuji, for Babuji, and only Babuji. He taught what Babuji taught. He said what Lalaji said. He spoke what Lalaji spoke. He quoted Lalaji Maharaj as often as he could. And when I asked him once, have you nothing else to talk about except Lalaji Maharaj? He said, what else is there in this world to talk about? You know, we were coming back from Denmark by a SAS flight, and they were showing a nice movie. In those days, we had to pay $5 or $2.50 for a set of earphones. He said, I don't want because I'm not going to see. You keep. You are a young fellow. So I was watching the movie, listening. Suddenly, he would pull off my speaker, my earphones, and say, look here, what Lalaji said. I was distracted from the picture like this probably every 10 seconds. So I said, Babuji, will you never stop talking about Lalaji? He said, that can happen only no more, and I am in the brighter world with him. See. As long as I am alive, as long as I breathe, it is only for Lalaji and only by his grace. And then he said, you know, Parthasarathi, I am still living only by his grace. I said, how? He said, he is not allowing me to complete my work on earth, because the moment my work is completed, I have to go. So he is extending my work so that I can live in here with you all. He said, to that extent is the master important in life. And then he was very unhappy when he saw his things being recorded on tape. And he said, how I wish there had been recording devices in his time, because he had such a mellifluous voice, and he had a beautiful voice when he sang. He used to sing songs of Kabir and things like that, all bhajans. He said, it's a great pity that his voice went unrecorded. And his visage became so sad. You could see that he really felt very unhappy about it. And occasionally he would also tell us that how he met Lalaji first time. And the meeting lasted probably a few minutes. And he would add, I met him only perhaps 10 times in my whole lifetime. You know? And here people come every day, and it's like the biblical reference to a bucket which goes into the well and returns again and again empty. I'm very fond of that reference because it shows what abhyasis do here. You know, come here, go back, come here, go back, come here, go back. Much more sad, much more poignant when we think of how many times they went to Shahjahanpur. The biggest well of all, the ocean of bliss. And the foolishness of people, you know, when they sat there and asked Babuji to describe the ocean of bliss. I was almost once beating a man. Of course, I contained myself. When he came and said, Babuji Maharaj, can you show me one of your disciples who has completed the journey? Then I will join Sahaj Marg. You know, I slapped my forehead and said, what is this idiot asking? When you are sitting in front of the master who produces liberated souls, you are asking him to show you one of those. So Babuji answered in a very nice way. He said, if I show you one, how will you believe it? Is my word enough? He said, yes, Babuji. Then he said, when I tell you I have done it, why is my word not enough? Then I asked that man, he was a senior deputy secretary in the government of India. I said, when you are sitting in his presence, don't you feel it? Isn't it? And he just smiled and walked away. So those were, to my mind, spiritual tragedies, you see. When people came and went without being able to say, I came, I saw, I conquered. What do you conquer? Julius Caesar grabbed a bit of Italian mud, you see, and said, I came and I saw and I conquered. Here we conquer ourself, our lower self, our tendencies. These are the things we have to conquer. And we think we are conquering the master. No, I'm telling you, master is very fond of me. He speaks to me always. He offered me lunch at his table. Trivial things like that went to make up their egos, bloat their egos even further. Whereas Babuji, when he went, he used to tell me that Lalaji, you know, was very poor. Under very poor circumstances he lived. He had a lot of children. And Lalaji himself has written that in winter, he had only one torn rasai under which the whole family used to sleep. Once Babuji Maharaj went there to Fatehgarh rather late, at about 9 p.m. And in winter, 9 p.m. is equal to midnight, you know. And the house was closed. There were no lights. He slept on a slab of stone outside the door, granite. He had nothing to cover himself, only one of those cheap pullovers, you know, that he had. I said, Babuji, how did you manage? He said, I was in constant remembrance. Nothing affected me. And in the morning, Lalaji opened the door, saw his disciple on the door, and on the slab of stone, which was the first step. And he said, Ramchandra, why didn't you knock? So I said, Babuji, yes, why didn't you knock? He said, one must not disturb the Guru, because he is doing so much. And poor man, when he is resting, should you disturb it just because you are there? He said, now people complain to me, we are stopped at the gate, your door is always closed, your security, blah, 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 you know, so many things. He was sleeping on a slab of stone. Then he said he ate only once a day when he was with Lalaji. And he ate only one chapati. I said, was there any necessity to regulate your diet during your sadhana period? He said, no, it was not that. You see, I knew my master was in poor circumstances. So I did not want to eat too much. So I ate only one chapati per day. And I did not eat a second time. You see how we must have a relationship with the Guru, his home, his family, his even the means of feeding us. How we must think of him and not of us, of ourselves. These are all exemplified. Once somebody told Babuji Maharaj, you know, Babuji, I'm not conscious that you love me. He said, I'm telling you, it is wrong of a lover to expect to be loved. I repeat, you know, it is wrong of a lover to expect to be loved. Because a lover sees nothing but the beloved, which is the object of his love. And he continues to love irrespective of whether he feels anything or not. I said, but he must feel something. I interjected into the conversation. He said, no, Parthasarathy, you know better, you are trying to support him. I said, no, Babu, people are bewildered, you know. Why you are not? He said, I love only my master, I am telling you. I have no place in my heart to love anybody else. So love is a one-way thing, you know. It keeps going up and up and up and reaches God. You cannot love, in the Bible, they say, you know, the Christian tradition, thou shalt not love God and mammon. Mammon is the rest of the world, everything in it. Men, women, children, wives, husbands, property, cows, dogs, goats. You see, it's a very important lesson we have to learn from the great master. You love without expecting to be loved back in return. That is spiritual life. Otherwise, you know, this degenerates into something like cinematic love, where the wife asks the husband, I love you, but do you love me? He says, yeah, honey, I love you. Of course I love you. If a husband has to tell his wife, I love you, it is considered a shame in India. And a woman will never tell her husband that she loves him. This is Indian culture, Indian tradition, Sanskriti as we call it. This has been centuries old. I am happy to see that today it is still left as part of our cultural tradition. So he said, I never cared whether Lalaji loved me or not. I loved Lalaji with all my life, with all my heart. I lived only for him. And he said, how when he first saw Lalaji, that was it. And he said, I never saw anything else. I never listened to anything else. I never heard anything else. In my heart was Lalaji. In my head was Lalaji. In my ears was Lalaji. In my eyes, of course, there was nothing but Lalaji. Then an Abhyasi asked him, don't you see us? He said, I look at you, yes. And then I understood the difference between looking and seeing. You understand? In English, there are so many words which people don't normally differentiate. I am looking, but I see nothing. I can be looking there, and I'm thinking of Rajagopalachari, you know, and my life with Babuji. And I don't see this. My eyes are looking here. My mind is seeing Rajagopalachari and Babuji Maharaj sitting in front of me. And I'm on the floor at his feet. So you see, looking, seeing, loving with your heart. There is no place even for that love if it comes back to you. Because this heart is already full of love for him. Even if he loves me, I am not conscious. You see? Very great lesson which people don't understand. No, no, you don't love me. You love that man more than you love me. See, Babuji told me, a guru is a guru only if he has total detachment from everything. He treats everybody equally. I was wondering, you know, how he could treat a duffer and an elevated spiritual person and probably one who was almost at the last rung of the ladder equally. Many years later, I had a vision early morning. You know, I have told you all about this several times, about a man who goes to a seed store and selects 10 seeds. He thinks these are the best seeds, you know, and when they grow, I'll make a lot of money. And he plants them. None of them sprout. Then I had realized why nature is so prolific with its seeds. Millions of seeds. Because nature knows